10. Bank robbing couple. An idiotic couple named John Mogan and Ashley Dubow have been charged with robbing a bank in Asheville, Ohio. According to the police, Mogan was the one who did the actual robbing, but his girlfriend was still an accomplice. He may have gotten away with the crime if he hadn't gone on social media 4 days later and posted pictures of himself and Ashley posing with the loot they ripped off from the bank. In one of the ludicrous photographs, Mogan can even be seen stuffing a huge wad of cash into his mouth. Clearly, he has no idea just how dirty cash money really is. If he didn't get pink eye from that, I'd be really surprised. Naturally, the couple got busted by the police. It really doesn't pay to upload evidence for the cops online where they can easily get it. Both Mogan and Dubow were charged with theft and robbery, currently behind bars at the infamous Pickaway County Jail. Their bond was set at $250,000, but it was more of a formality than anything. These dumb crooks clearly don't have that much money lying around. They don't even have enough brain cells to stay off social media for 5 minutes after committing a bank robbery. 9. Falling asleep on the job. A thief in Thailand was woken up by the police after taking a nap in a pretty stupid place. In fact, this thief may be the stupidest one we've seen so far today. The criminal broke into somebody's house to rob them, but he was suddenly stricken by the need to take a nap. He fell asleep in a child's room and was woken up when the owner of the house called the police. The owner just so happened to be a police officer, asleep in the other room while the robber was napping in his daughter's room. Clearly, the thief didn't stake out the house very well before attempting to rob it. The police officer, when he woke up and realized the man was sleeping in his daughter's bed, phoned his police buddies and they showed up to arrest him. The video of his arrest has since gone viral, and the hilarious look on this guy's face when he realizes what's happening is priceless. If you're going to rob a house, maybe stay away from houses where police live. And maybe don't fall asleep in the middle of the job. 8. Instant karma. In Canada, the act of stealing packages off people's porches has become increasingly problematic. It's one of the easiest yet most despicable robbery-type crimes that a person can commit. But in Mississauga, a suburb of Toronto, one of these sneaky porch bandits got some instant karma. He was driving through the suburb, scouting out packages to steal from people's houses. He saw one that looked enticing, so he pulled his car up, ran to the door, and stole the package. But this was in the winter, and he was driving a Toyota Yaris. He ended up getting stuck in the driveway because his car couldn't back out of the snow. This is the Canadian equivalent of robbing a bank with an empty tank of gas. The homeowner actually walked outside and saw the man with his package, which scared the thief, causing him to drop the package and run back to his car. In his haste to leave, he backed right into a snowbank. He was now stuck between the driveway and the snow with his wheels spinning fruitlessly. The homeowner, instead of getting angry, simply pulled out his phone, called the police, and then filmed the thief desperately trying to get away. But he never did. And the cops showed up quickly and took the porch pirate into custody. 7. An illegible note. Craig Gurnett was released from prison in August after serving over 10 years in prison for robbing banks. This was back in 2006 when police finally caught up to him after a string of robberies that included 4 banks and 11 shops. Just hours after he got out of jail, he went back to robbing. He's now facing new charges and yet another string of heists. But for whatever reason, maybe he spent too much time in jail, he no longer had the skills he needed. His first robbery was at the TD Bank in Washington Heights. He demanded cash and made a getaway with a whopping $759. Next week, he pulled off another heist on another TD Bank, this time getting away with an outstanding $568. He hit a Chase Bank that same day, earned himself $1,000, and then later in the afternoon tried to rob a third bank in Harlem. This time, though, he made a pretty silly error. When he wrote the note that he was supposed to give to the person behind the cash register, he wrote it so poorly that the woman couldn't read it. The bank teller looked at the note, looked back at Gurnett, and told him that she couldn't read the note. In response, he asked if she was stupid and then informed her that he was robbing the bank. He got away with absolutely no money this time, and the cops caught up to him just a little while later. We don't know how many years behind bars Gurnett will get this time, but considering his history, they'll probably never let him out again. 6. The Wheelchair Bandit. In Pittsburgh, a man in a wheelchair did not let his disability stop him from trying to rob a bank. It's hard to say whether this guy was dumb, delusional, or simply courageous. He rolled himself into the First National Bank on the south side of town dressed in a hooded sweatshirt with glasses on and a black hat. He handed a note to the teller informing her that he had a bomb in his backpack and that he would kill everyone inside the bank unless she handed over $50,000. Naturally, the bank teller activated the alarm, but then something very unusual happened. When the teller broke down and started crying, the robber seemed disheartened and upset. He wheeled himself out of the bank without ever receiving the money. Obviously, he felt extremely guilty. When the FBI and police officers showed up on the scene, they quickly found the man's wheelchair abandoned near the bank. When they checked surveillance footage, they saw him getting out of the chair, getting on a public bus, and driving away. Apparently, he hadn't really needed the wheelchair that badly. So how did he get caught after making his daylight getaway? A police officer watching the news that night recognized the man from the security footage. He had helped him cross the street the day before. The man was identified as 56-year-old Emmanuel Luna, and he has since been sentenced to spend 46 months in federal prison for the attempted robbery. Do you think this was a fair sentence for the wheelchair bank robber? Or do you think the fact that he felt so guilty that he left without the money should get him off easier? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to hit thumbs up and subscribe. 5. The Wrong Train. Don't think for a second that stupid criminals are a modern invention. Back in Minnesota in 1897, a group of exceptionally brain-dead train robbers messed up their heist so bad people are still talking about it today. The robbery happened near Glendon on September 26th. The train was heading west when the robbers appeared. One of them crawled over what used to be called the coal tender car, the car that holds all the coal to keep the locomotive running. According to local county archivist Mark Pyle, this individual pulled a gun on the locomotive engineer and told him to stop the train. This was the first stage of the robbery. The second stage involved another man, the accomplice. His job was to unhook the cars behind the locomotive, the cars that were full of troublesome passengers. You see, behind the actual locomotive, meaning the front part of the train that drags the rest of the cars along, there are a number of different cars. Some cars carry valuables, some are for dining, and some are for passengers. The accomplice was supposed to unlock the cars carrying the passengers so that they could keep the cars full of valuables. The plan didn't go quite as expected. The accomplice unhooked the wrong cars. Instead of just letting the passengers go, he let all the cars, including the one with all the valuables, go as well. By the time they realized their mistake, the first man had already ordered the locomotive engineer to keep going. The prize that the robbers wanted was now miles behind them. So all they managed to do was steal some pocket watches, spare change, and a bit of pocket lint. Then they took off running and were never seen again. 4. The Body Wash Bandit. The Body Wash Bandit has no real name because he hasn't been caught. And while this may make him seem like a crafty robber, he really isn't. This guy walked into a Walgreens at about 9 o'clock at night on September 24th. He carried with him a tote bag, empty when he passed through the doors. After a few minutes of walking around, his tote bag was full. He then ran as fast as he could out the front doors and disappeared into the night. So what makes this guy such a dumb criminal? After all, he did technically get away with a crime. Well, it's because he really didn't get away with much. According to one of the employees who witnessed the man roaming through the store, he walked straight to the personal hygiene section and filled his bag full of body wash. He stole bottles of body wash and other related cleaning products. Apparently, he just needed to get clean. Who knows why he couldn't afford to pay for the body wash, but he obviously smelled so bad that he had no choice but to rob a Walgreens. 3. Getting away on the bus. Giovanni Baltodano is one of the stupidest criminals in the world. You might say he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. He's currently facing 31 charges following an aggressive series of robberies that went on between January 22nd to February 22nd, all in 2021. He managed to rob at least 11 different places while miraculously making his getaway on the public bus. At this point, it makes you wonder if Giovanni was a criminal mastermind or if the police were really so incompetent that they couldn't catch a bank robber on a bus. Whatever the case, the police have referred to the series of holdups as the Note Be Stupid robberies because of the interesting way in which Giovanni asked for the cash. When he entered whichever establishment he was robbing, he would hand over a note with something like, "This is a robbery. Give me the money," written on it. And naturally, they always did. But according to the cops, he never made off with more than $950 in any single robbery. Maybe that's because he went from small business to small business, robbing sandwich shops and cell phone stores. He even robbed a dollar store, as if he was expecting to make off with more than $50. In the end, he simply got too greedy. You would think that after 11 successful robberies, you would just give up. But he kept on robbing, and the police eventually identified him, tracked him to his home, and locked him up behind bars. 2. Locked inside. In Philadelphia, a would-be robber managed to get himself stuck inside of a store as he tried to rob it. According to what a police detective told the local Philadelphia ABC news station, if all robbers were as dumb as this guy, cops' jobs would be a lot easier. The robbery attempt happened at about 5:30 at night, with only one store employee being present. The man walked into the store, pulled a gun on the employee, and then pointed it straight at his head. The robber told the employee to give him the money, and in response, the employee said that he didn't have any. But he said that if the robber would just wait a minute, he could get him some. The employee said that there was another worker outside and that he had lots of money. Amazingly, the stupid criminal agreed to wait in the store while the employee ran out to get his cash. What the robber didn't realize was that this would be the end of his criminal career. The employee ran outside, quickly locked the door using his key, and then pulled down the metal gate and ran away. The robber was trapped inside the store with no way out. The police eventually found him trapped inside, but not before he had unloaded his gun at the door lock in a futile attempt to escape. Apparently, shooting out a lock isn't quite as simple as it is in the movies. 1. A bold-faced robbery. A man has been ridiculed mercilessly for his shocking bare-faced robbery. His name is Richard Giles, and he tried to rob the Trustmark Bank in Jackson, Mississippi. He walked into the bank with his face mask, you know, the ones everyone has to wear for COVID-19, pulled down around his chin like a diaper. The one time in history when you can actually walk into a bank with a mask on, this guy had his drooped underneath his chin. He stood in line with his face clearly visible to the cameras, then handed a note to the bank teller and made off with a small sum of cash. Following the holdup, the Jackson police tweeted screenshots from the surveillance footage which clearly showed who the robber was. It took them no time at all to track Richard Giles down and arrest him.
Number 10. Murderous hairdresser. A man who spent far too much time scrolling for new friends on Facebook as part of a crippling social media addiction met his ultimate end. He was actually killed by his jealous girlfriend, who couldn't stand him being so addicted to Facebook that he didn't pay enough attention to her. QL psycho music. Our addict in this case is Damon Searson. His girlfriend, Terry Palmer, plunged a bread knife straight into his chest during a mad fit of rage. After the murder, she even posted about what she had done on Facebook. She said that Damon had made her angry by sitting on his phone, completely ignoring her while she was trying to talk to him. Enough was enough. She ended his addiction for him. To be honest though, the relationship was pretty toxic from the start. The couple met at the hair salon where Terry worked. They moved in together shortly after, and they argued pretty much the entire time. Damon was notorious for posting topless mirror selfies on Facebook, which Terry was definitely not a huge fan of. She even texted him one night saying she was crying herself to sleep because he was so mean to her. She also added at the end that she was thinking about stabbing him. It all came to an end about a month after they moved in together. Terry called the police early in the morning on August 14th, claiming that Damon had asked her to throw him a carving knife, but that it accidentally gone straight through his chest. When the cops arrived, it was blatantly clear that he'd been stabbed to death by his jealous girlfriend. She got 12 years behind bars. Number 9. Poking his girlfriend. A man was sent to jail for murdering his friend. The reason behind the killing is so bizarre that you might not even believe it. His name is Scott Humphrey, and he punched someone who was supposed to be his friend, Richard Rivetto, in the head repeatedly in the back of a cab. Scott did it because Richard had poked his girlfriend on Facebook. The nerve. For those who may have forgotten what the poking feature on Facebook was, it was literally just a virtual poke. It was a way to flirt with someone without actually having to do or say anything. You could poke someone, then they can poke you back, and then you would get the conversation going. It wasn't really something you were supposed to do to your friend's girlfriend. During the court proceedings, Scott Humphrey admitted that the argument between the two men came to its peak just as the taxi stopped and dropped them off. The two men climbed out of the taxi. Scott punched Richard in the nose. Then he punched him one more time. The final punch launched him onto the pavement, where he cracked his head and died. And all because Richard couldn't keep his pokes to himself on social media. Well, and also because Scott took pokes on Facebook so seriously that he killed his friend over it. Number 8. Dangerous ranting. A man in Chicago suffered from a pretty severe social media addiction. He was notorious for posting frequent videos filled with nonsensical ranting on his Facebook account. In fact, he had been posting disturbing videos on Facebook for the past 2 years. In some of them, he even wielded a gun and screamed into the camera while driving down the street. He was clearly disturbed, and he let the world know all about his demented thoughts through the friendly, friend-making service we all know and love. Well, 2 years of dangerous ranting turned out to be the precursor of a terrifying killing spree. Jason Nightingale killed 3 people, wounding 4, and then died in a dramatic shootout with the police in a Chicago suburb. It started on the south side of Chicago in a parking garage when Jason shot a complete stranger in the head. He was a student from China, somebody Jason had never met. He then killed a random security guard. Then during his shooting spree, he injured 2 elderly women and a young 15-year-old girl. And according to Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown, a 4th woman took a bullet to the neck while Jason rampaged through the Evanston suburb. In the end, a shootout in a restaurant parking lot left Jason Nightingale dead at the hands of the police. He had no clear motive for his killing rampage. Yet for anyone paying close attention to his virtual life, they may have noticed 2 years of disturbing videos pointing to a case of serious mental illness. Maybe if someone had been watching, the catastrophe could have been avoided. Number 7. The Tinder Strangler. The 6th psychopath who murdered British backpacker Grace Mullane had a prior history of using the Tinder app to meet and brutally attack women. This is definitely one of the more bizarre cases of social media addiction gone wrong, seeing as this killer, Jesse Kempson, was addicted to meeting women off the internet and trying to kill them. Jesse was jailed for 17 years for the murder of Grace in his hotel room back in December of 2018. but he's also been convicted on various other charges relating to other attacks that happened prior. One of them was when he used a knife on his Tinder date back in November of 2016. According to what the identified woman told police, something snapped, he got angry, and he literally held a knife to her throat. After that, he was brought up on charges of assault for violating a woman he went on a date with in April of 2018. In the end, Jesse's insane addiction led him to Grace Mullane, who he brutally murdered just for the thrill of it. Thankfully, he's going to be in jail for the next 20 years, where the only Tinder dates will be with his cellmates. How do you feel about going on your next Tinder date after hearing this terrifying story? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe button if you haven't already. Number 6. Social media beef. In Texas, a teenager has just been killed in a devastating shooting that police say is all because of a beef on social media. When the police in Houston responded to a shooting on Sharpview Drive, they discovered a 16-year-old girl dead. 2 other victims of the shooting were taken to the hospital, but they were in stable condition. Mareja Pratt was not so lucky. The young girl was a high school student working toward going to college, but a bizarre social media addiction saw her and a group of much older women locked in a fierce rivalry for months. The rivalry ended with 15 bullets fired at the location where Mareja and her 2 friends had gone to engage the people they had been arguing with on the internet for so long. Basically, Mareja and 2 of her friends had been bullied by some other girls on the internet. They were being picked on through Instagram, with these bullies calling Mareja a prostitute and using her own photos to victimize her. But instead of just ignoring it, blocking these terrible people, or maybe putting her phone down for 5 minutes, Mareja cried herself to sleep at night about it. And when things finally got too much to handle, Mareja and her 2 friends went to settle the dispute and squash the beef in real life. But when they showed up, a man and 2 women opened fire on them before running off. Number 5. The Impersonator. A man in Pennsylvania took his disabled girlfriend to Nevada on what she thought was going to be a nice vacation. But as it turned out, there was no vacation. The man killed his girlfriend, then impersonated her on social media for almost 2 whole months. This is John Chapman, 39 years old. According to CNN, he is now facing charges of kidnapping and murder for the death of Jamie Fedden, 33. Jamie suffered from Vader syndrome, meaning she had limited mental capacity and some issues with her vertebrae and other body parts. John Chapman convinced this woman to drive into the desert to participate in a seriously disturbing photo shoot. At the location, Chapman tied Jamie's hands and feet, put duct tape over her nose and mouth, and left her in the desert to suffocate and die. She was found a week later by a family as they pulled over on the side of the road to take a bathroom break. In the meantime, John had been pretending to be Jamie on social media, masking his phone number and communicating with Jamie's family and friends. But he wasn't very good at it. Jamie's friends realized something was wrong in the dialogue. They reported her missing, and the police soon figured out what had happened. But throughout this whole nightmare, no motive ever came out for the killing. John Chapman was just a crazy person addicted to social media. He decided to tie his disabled girlfriend up in the desert, then leave her to die before assuming her identity online. Number 4. Forgetting to make lunch. In Kolkata, a man murdered his wife, allegedly because she was addicted to social media and forgot to make him lunch. The killer's name is Surajit Paul. According to police sources in India, when he returned home from work in the middle of the day on January 24th to have lunch, he discovered his wife, Tumpa Paul, busy on her cell phone. She had gotten so distracted by social media that she completely forgot to make him lunch. The husband was infuriated, not only because there was nothing for him to eat on his lunch break, but also because his wife was glued to her phone, as if the rest of the world didn't exist. Surajit was so angry that he pulled out a knife and threatened her. But his wife wasn't fazed in the slightest. She kept on playing with her phone, fiddling as if he wasn't waving a knife in her face. This was what ultimately pushed him over the edge. In a fit of rage, he hit her on the head with the butt of the knife a few times, then strangled her with a towel. When his rage finally left him and he realized what he had done, he tried to flee his home and escape the city. But Surajit didn't make it very far. The cops arrested him before he could get away. Last we heard, He's being held in police custody while waiting for his court hearing. Number 3. Status change. Edward Richardson killed his wife because she changed her status on Facebook back in 2008. Sarah Richardson was a perfectly ordinary hairdresser, 26 years old, with her whole life in front of her. Her husband was 41 and apparently far more obsessed with social media than she was. He went into a blind rage after seeing that Sarah had changed her status from married to single. Edward then drove to Sarah's parents' house in Staffordshire, UK, and stabbed her until she was dead. He tried to take his own life afterwards, but failed, was apprehended by the police, and stuffed into a cell. A judge handed down a sentence of 17 years for his despicable crime. Number 2. One of these things is not like the other. In order to promote her Instagram account, a woman posed as a student and tried to go to school. Naturally, the 28-year-old Florida native was caught rather quickly. Even the worst teacher is going to recognize a fully grown adult walking through the school halls. And that's exactly what happened. Police were altered to a grown woman named Audrey Nicole Franceschini wandering through American Senior High School in Miami on a Monday morning. She was allegedly handing out flyers to the students with her Instagram account on them. And here's how it was pretty obvious Nicole was born in the early 90s. She was carrying a backpack and a skateboard to try to blend in. Nothing screams 30-year-old like thinking high school kids are still walking around with skateboards under their arm. Nicole was later charged with burglary, interfering with an educational institution, and also resisting a police officer. And as it turned out, she had actually been a police officer, but was let go in 2017. Her mental state had clearly diminished as she became more and more addicted to social media. Then finally, she thought breaking into a high school was the smartest and most effective way to gain followers. Sadly for her, it didn't work. And number 1, we're not getting married. A man decided at the last minute not to marry his fiancée because she said she was on social media too much. The wedding was happening at the bride's home, but the groom never showed up. It was September 5th, and the bride's family was waiting to welcome the groom and his family. But after a few hours passed and he never came, they knew something was wrong. Everyone was there except for him. The day was a complete disaster. The bride's father and the groom's brother finally managed to track the guy down, held up at home in the dark like a goblin. When they asked what was happening, he said he didn't want to marry his fiancée anymore because he was tired of how much time she spent on social media, particularly on WhatsApp. He was worried that if he married her, her social media addiction would just get worse. If that turned out to be the case, he didn't think he could handle it. So, to prevent any future strife, he simply decided not to marry the woman. He opted to leave her alone with her cell phone. We are pretty sure she posted all about it. Number 7. Woman acquitted of killing sister after father's pardon. On December 5th of 2017, Alvina, whose last name has remained a mystery, called police in a panic, stating that her sister had just been killed by robbers. The 15-year-old resident of Malar district in Karachi claimed that robbers had made their way into the home and stabbed her sister, Alina, with a sharp object after she tried resisting the looting. The robbers, as Alvina stated, had fled the home, taking valuables such as jewelry and money along with them. Interestingly enough, the only witness to the alleged robbery was Alvina. She claimed that her parents and siblings were sound asleep while the commotion was taking place. Police apprehended Alvina as the prime suspect in her sister's killing, to which she confessed 5 days later. The case became sensationalized in Pakistani media as the Malar murder. Further investigations revealed that Alvina had an accomplice, her fiancé, Mazar. Alvina alleged that her sister had several objectionable images of her on her phone. She alleged that despite constantly pleading with her sister to delete them, Alina would not, and instead blackmailed her with them. Family and friends recounted several incidents of the sisters fighting with one another, but chalked it all down to sibling rivalry. Mazar backed up Alvina's testimony and stated that she had confided in him about the alleged images, and that despite trying to reason with Alina, she continued to blackmail her sister. Another account given by Alina's family stated that the sisters would get in constant rifts because Alvina would try to sneak her fiancé into her parents' home. Alina revealed this to her parents, and this led to the two becoming estranged. Alvina maintained her testimony and stated that she was pushed to the point of having to kill her sister. while a court ruled her guilty of first-degree murder. The girl's father pardoned Alvina in late 2019. Nadim, their father, provided no reason for his decision, other than stating that he felt it was only fair to forgive Alvina for murdering Alina. Number 6. Unnamed sister charged with murder of adult brother. An obituary was set up for Jaworski Johnson in 2007 after the man was fatally stabbed back in July of the same year. The obituary read that Johnson, also known as Cowboy by his friends and family, will be mourned by a stepfather, a mother, 2 sons, 2 brothers, and 5 sisters. However, another news source cited that Johnson was actually stabbed to death by one of his sisters. The unnamed 16-year-old stabbed Johnson after the two had gotten into a heated confrontation. Not much is known about the incident, besides the fact that the two had been arguing all night. Family members stated that the 16-year-old girl reached for a sharp object and stabbed her then 23-year-old adult brother. Johnson could not survive his injuries and died a few hours later. Not much is cited online about the incident. In fact, media outlets refrained from publishing the story because of the young girl's age during the incident. Friends and family gathered at the grieving family's home a few days after the incident to mourn the loss of not one, but 2 of the family's children. Number 5. Woman allegedly killed sister, found by brother-in-law. While Sandra Lamarquette is yet to confess to the brutal killing of her sister, there is enough evidence to incriminate her on charges of first or second-degree murder. The 59-year-old resident of North Highlands, California, was arrested after fleeing the alleged scene of the crime, her home. On Tuesday morning, December 15th of 2021, police received a frantic 911 call from a man who wanted to report his wife being missing. The call was shortly followed by another from the same man stating that he found his wife lying lifeless at Marquette's home in North Highlands. The unnamed victim had been dropped off by her husband earlier in the day to Marquette's home. After she failed to respond, and so did Marquette, the woman's husband decided to go over to their destination. Police responding to the scene stated that the woman has been dead for several hours at that point. They believe that she died as a result of blunt force trauma. Marquette was nowhere to be seen. A search warrant was issued for the woman, who was later apprehended near Jackson Street and Madison Avenue in North Highlands. She was apprehended without incident. Marquette is now being held in Sacramento County Jail on 1 felony count of murder. She's expected to appear in Sacramento County Superior Court Thursday. Number 4. Woman charged with stabbing twin sister to death. Ana Ramirez has posted a picture of herself with her identical twin sister, Amanda Ramirez, and a couple of the siblings' friends in the hours leading up to June 22nd of 2019. The two had been out partying the previous night, as was evident from the photo Anna had posted. However, Amanda recounted a different story of that night, 3 separate ones to be precise. The first one alleged that she had picked up a disheveled-looking Anna from the side of the road, and the 2 of them then went to a friend's house where she passed out and died. The second one alleged that she had met up with Anna at their cousin's home, where the victim fell ill and had to retreat. The final version of the night of June 22nd stated that Amanda and Anna had gotten into a heated confrontation after a night of heavy drinking. The third version, which was ultimately what the court used to charge Amanda with her identical twins' murder, recounted that both sisters had been tussling, belligerently drunk, back and forth. After a while, they both reached for a knife. Amanda got to the knife first and stabbed her sister repeatedly. In all likelihood, even if Amanda did not confess to the crime, there was still substantial evidence against her. For example, Anna's body was found at Amanda's apartment. Amanda's clothes were bloodstained, and the footprints leading to the scene of the crime were found to belong to Amanda. A court date was set for September of 2019, wherein Amanda confessed to the crime. She stated that not a day goes by that she doesn't look back on the crime and regret everything that led to it. Amanda closed her statement by apologizing to friends and family who had been traumatized by the incident. For the murder of her twin sister, Ana Ramirez, Amanda Ramirez received 6 years in prison. Siblings committing murder against one another is always troubling, but in this case, where the sisters were identical twins, is especially unusual. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you think a 6-year sentence is a reasonable punishment? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any new videos. Number 3. Woman and lover kill brother over marital dispute. Police in Chichawanti, Pakistan have apprehended a woman and her lover in connection to the murder of the woman's brother. The crime was committed in November of 2019. The woman, Maya, was one of 7 children born to a couple in Karachi, Pakistan. Eli Assad Chima, the victim, was Maya's only brother. The siblings were born and raised in a Christian household. Maya had allegedly fallen in love with Edisham, a mobile shop owner and a Muslim. The couple had gotten married in court 10 months prior to the incident. Their union was strongly objected to by the woman's parents because Maya had allegedly accepted Islam. Chima had objected to the marriage and allegedly threatened to kill Maya and Edisham. The couple claimed to be in fear of their life after rumors started circulating that Chima had purchased guns. In November of 2019, Edisham visited Chima at his residence. According to his testimony, Chima was both verbally and physically assaulting Edisham. After a brief tussle, Edisham took an opportunity and poisoned Chima's drink. The victim then began foaming from the mouth and convulsing, at which point Maya emerged and began strangling Chima. Police recovered a cell phone recording Edisham had made, wherein the couple can be seen laughing while the victim is being strangled. The commotion alerted the neighbors and Chima's wife, who arrived to see the entire ordeal. The culprits then fled the scene on a motorbike. A police report was filed, and the couple was apprehended soon thereafter. Maya and Edisham are currently waiting trial for the murder of Eli Assad Chima. The couple has been booked under separate charges of murder in the first degree. Maya and Edisham have confessed to the murder during initial police investigation. Number 2. Sister kills 5-year-old brother for being annoying. Police in Chandigarh, India, have booked a 19-year-old in the alleged murder of her 5-year-old brother. On October 6 of 2018, the siblings' parents returned from a trip to find that their young son was missing. They filed a missing persons report with the police on the same day. Earlier, the couple had left their 19-year-old daughter in charge of the house while they went out. The unnamed culprit was reportedly annoyed with her brother for following her around everywhere and hurling abuses at her all day long. She cited several incidents wherein her brother was being a nuisance and claimed to have gotten frustrated with the entire situation. On October 6th, the 19-year-old sister strangled her little brother to death, threw his body into a bag, and staged a kidnapping. On October 7th, she allegedly woke up at 4 a.m. to dispose of the body near their residence in Ludhiana. The boy's body was found later that day and police were called. During questioning, the sister confessed to her crime and confessed that she had reached a breaking point. Other sources claim that the young girl killed her brother after he spotted her sister talking to an older individual who lived in the same locality as them. The boy could have potentially seen his sister with the same man again on the 6th, which led to his murder. The young girl's alleged partner is yet to be identified. And number 1, woman murders sister to be with her husband. Saba Khan, 27, was living with her sister, Saima Khan, 34, Saima's husband, Hafiz Rahman, the couple's 4 children, and the sister's parents at their home in Luton. On the evening of May 26 in 2017, Saba called her sister back home, claiming that her children were crying uncontrollably for their mother. Saima texted back, "On my way." The text exchanged happened around 11 p.m. that night, and by 12 a.m., Saba made a frantic call to police, claiming that her sister had just been killed. Police arriving at the scene immediately questioned the seemingly distraught Saba over the bloodstains on her arms. Saba claimed that the stains were a result of cuts she got from the shattered glass that the alleged robbers had shattered. Police went inside the residence to find Saima Khan lying lifeless on the floor of the downstairs living room. She had been stabbed repeatedly. A coroner's report later revealed that Saima had been stabbed 68 times. Saima initially claimed that her sister had died as a result of resisting a looting that was taking place at the home. However, Saima's 7-year-old daughter, who heard the commotion and woke up, reportedly called out to her aunt, who responded that she was busy killing a mouse. Police footage after being called at the scene revealed a seemingly distraught Saba recounting the incident and stated that she had tried to hug her sister to stop the bleeding, but she died almost instantly. However, later reports revealed something more sinister. Saba had premeditated her sister's killing over Rahman. Saba and Rahman had been in a relationship for the past 4 years. However, Rahman's interest in Saba had been waning. In text messages that were retrieved from Saba's phone, the relationship had taken an obsessive turn after Hafiz tried to break the relationship off. She claimed in a series of text messages to Rahman, "Nothing can stop me from loving you, not even you." Saba was also in contact with a fixer in Pakistan, whom she was giving £5,000 for the murder of her sister. However, Saba was in a time crunch after Saima and Hafiz announced they were planning on moving out by the end of the month. This prompted Saba to stab her sister under a guise the first chance she got. Saba had also reportedly been searching for poisons and other ways to dispose of bodies in the months leading up to Saima's stabbing. Rahman was reportedly distraught after learning of the murder and claimed to be in great shame over the affair. Saba Khan is currently serving a 22-year-long sentence for the murder of her sister. Thanks for watching. Which of these stories shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time.